Nigel will sign these.
Thank you. Well, good morning. And thank you for that great introduction. And I hope you can hear me okay. It's kind of a busy room, volume-wise. And I just want to talk to you about manufacturing, because it is an imperative for Western economies. I think we need to realize that. And it's actually time to take it back. So what we're going to talk about today is taking back manufacturing. And it's a new book. This is actually my second book. It's actually, I'll go through a bit of history of how it got to be a book. But, it's about the destruction. It talks about the history of manufacturing and its destruction. And why the Western societies need to really focus on taking it back for national prosperity, and why the imperative is basically just to do that. A little bit about me, I'll be real brief. Yeah, I started in Bristol, England as a engineering apprentice in British Aerospace back in the good old days. I'm not young anymore. Eventually came to Canada to work on a space shuttle arm, which time was really highfalutin. And I gravitated to a high-tech electronics. So I was at Motorola in the 80s, which was the place to be. I was in a room when Six Sigma was invented at Motorola, which was really cool, and did a lot of work on what became lean as a practitioner, and then decided to join two guys from Hewlett Packard and start a consulting business, preaching lean and doing stuff pretty much with everything from soup to nuts, literally. We got a lot of history. This is the book that we wrote within a year. This is the book on what basically is about lean thinking. We got a lot of press. I was at the time in, the early 90s when people were still concerned about manufacturing. And I had the opportunity to broaden my view by doing it literally everything from soup to nuts, meat packing, pharmaceuticals, steel making, and electronics, of course. And so I had an opportunity to go around basically North America and a little bit of Europe, preaching what became the lean message. And that was really cool. I ended up at the end of the 90s with the NAFTA journey. I went to Mexico, ran a plant in Mexico for a year and a half, missed 2 winters. That was cool. And I came back, and around about 2004, I was asked to go to China for my clients and act as a joint venture coordinator to move product to China. Now, there's a lot of pretty things and people in China, but manufacturing in China in 2004 wasn't one of them. And we struggled with quality, and we struggled with all the infrastructural issues of shipping 40-foot containers. Eventually, we got it done. We ended up with, this is, by the way, the products, one of the portfolios. So you're on a golf course, so the top left is club car. We did a lot of components for those guys. So pretty much you probably sat on one of these vehicles. So after a while, we got good. We formed a very strong team in China. Very proud of the team we put together there. And we had a lot of successes and moved a lot of product, signed a lot of contracts, made a lot of friends. Then I came home. After 6 years, going back and forth, of course, realized that I'd been part of the hollowing out of our manufacturing base. It was depressing to see just how much we'd lost in our local manufacturing community. And we realized this was a North American problem, not just Canadian. We had a significant, I'm going to show you the numbers so you'll see. We actually moved a lot of stuff offshore for low-cost manufacturing reasons, for low-cost labor reasons, more than 20% reduction, even on a good day, as far as manufacturing intensity is concerned. This started from about 2000 to 2017. And if you look at those gravestones, some of you in the room have worked in some of those sectors. Some of them don't exist anymore as manufacturing entities in North America. They've been completely offshore. Some are hollowed out, some are damaged, and certainly the supply chains are damaged. So we have a lot of hollowing out taking place in that time frame. And of course, manufacturing's been good to me. I've been at it 55 years, and I go back and I come back and I'm very upset. And so I rejoined my society, which is the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. We talked about it, and we decided to take it back. It was one of those sort of grandiose ideas. So we put a forum together dedicated to the restoration of manufacturing, and we started talking it up and getting into the facts and understanding what had taken place. And we launched at the CMTS show in Toronto in 2011, did a floor show, raised awareness for the initiative of taking back manufacturing. Did a lot of work with other associations, gravitated a lot of support, got a lot of media attention. All the magazines at the time did front pages on us. It was really cool to get all that exposure. And that still goes on. I've written a lot of articles for the media. BNN, we did a couple of shows in BNN on the initiative and what was wrong with manufacturing at the time. Hooked up with a reshoring initiative in the US, very close with these guys. We do a lot of work on the balanced sourcing model and understanding the costs and where things have been going. And that really we decided that we would do the book now. And the reason we chose now is we believe there is a change in perception about globalization. There are some negatives now. It used to be a no-brainer for everybody. The effectiveness and security of global supply chains is now being questioned. There is some concerns. And we've got some geopolitical issues with people that are players in that game. And there is some reshoring action taking place. We'd like to see more, but it's beginning to happen. And it's popular in everybody's minds that we should do that. And we also believe, although it's a stretch, question mark, whether there's going to be enough political will in Canada to assist our manufacturing journey. So the book gets into it. We don't pull any punches. It's a pretty heavy duty book in terms of picking on everything that's wrong with it, getting in the way of us getting back manufacturing. It goes over the history, talks about the changes, and then it comes up with a recovery plan and the policies that should change. And we cover a lot of the ground. Anything that gets in the way of manufacturing's return is covered in the book. So what I'd like to do today, as it's a bunch of manufacturing folks in front of me, is as industry practitioners, what's our role in bringing back manufacturing? So I'd like to talk about that. So a little bit of history first, 30 years of history. It's about liberalizing global free trade. That's what we've done. We took free trade and liberalized it globally. And what we've done, we've not only lost the products, we've lost the infrastructure as well. We've lost, if you look at, my experiences, we've lost manufacturing technology and the equipment even that goes with manufacturing to offshore. It goes where the manufacturing is. So do the test facilities. Try and get something CS8 here without going offshore to get it tested. And then then eventually your product R&D and your prototyping capability goes, and eventually you lose the complete product development cycle and mandate. So that gives you a big trade imbalance. What we're seeing, and the numbers show it, we've got a significant trade imbalance. The US has had one for a long time. The area end of the curve is 50% of their GDP, significant shortfall. Canada used to be kind of stable, but it's down now and it's staying down, our trade balance. So pure wealth transfer. Look at, these are just manufacturing numbers. We've stripped away the rest of the economy. It's just the manufacturing economy. Everything's negative. We've got 10 times reduction in our trade deficit. We've lost 20% of our domestic share of what we make and buy. Half of our global share, which is small anyway, is gone. And you can see the trade imbalances across different countries. So what it's equated to is about 500,000 jobs lost. Now, these were lost before 2008. So, a lot of economists and politicians try to tell you they've all come back, but only the ones that have gone, were there in 2008 onwards have come back. So a significant loss. It's not a labor shortage, but it is a skill shortage because we've moved things around to the point where we've lost the theme of relifing our skill set. Also our youth. I do a lot of work with youth. I teach at a college part-time. We got last time we checked, about 1 million young Canadians unable to follow a decent career, either or underemployed, in double digits in the GTA. And it's not just manufacturing. We look at service side of things. About 60% of those jobs that have been so-called eliminated aren't eliminated. They've just been relocated offshore. And service jobs, of course, are much more accessible for a lot of people to do. So that's the bad news. So here's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to leave some time for questions, by the way. I think you're probably a group that would like that. But here's the biggest lean study of all time that we've been doing. And it's onshore versus offshore we want to talk about. So we're going to take a global supply chain and do a lean study on it. Okay. So here's what is a global supply chain? Well, it's a bunch of ships moving material from one place to another, taking it to places where there's low-cost labor, and then taking that product and giving it to somebody else who wants to buy it in these things, these waste machines. There's no manufacturing done on these puppies. That's just moving inventory around, non-value adding inventory. Very expensive waste of fuel and very expensive on our carbon footprint. Most people don't know this, but these things, there's 90,000 of them, and they pollute 6 times all the non-diesel cars in the world. So next time I see an electric car come off a container ship, I'm going to wonder. So let's take a look at the global supply chain. There's the ships, long supply chain. Bottom left are the cost drivers. They're significant. Top right is, and the ones in red are non-value added steps that we've got in this long supply chain. And by the way, this whole supply chain is predicated on cheap money because there's a lot of inventory tied up in that supply chain. So as interest rates go up, there's going to be a significant cost of running such a supply chain. So let's take a look at the alternative, which is a localized trade block, where we shorten the supply chain and basically make our own products locally. We end up now with a strong incubation for manufacturing. Innovation can be connected directly to manufacturing. We'll still trade, but on a balanced basis. And we'll still send resources to people that want them for their own economy. Now, just take a look at the cost of that supply chain has gone down by an order of magnitude, 10 to 5 times. And it's very lean and green, very balanced. And basically, it's really where we want to go. So what we're really saying is, the theme is make much more of what you consume with much more of your own resources. So that really puts question marks from a business point of view about supporting the journey of a long supply chain. Now, Boston Consulting Group, we did this numbers back in 2014. Actually, on paper, we're already past the balanced sourcing point. We're already past the tipping point in many commodities. Okay, so if you run the numbers, which I guarantee you should do, and you take all the costs of your supply chain and all of or if you've got capability locally, you're going to find that you're really close to the tipping point, say with China. Of course, Mexico's local, so that's different. So these numbers show that pretty much there is an intrinsic advantage in being localized now as far as manufacturing is concerned, and it's getting worse in terms of cost of shipping, etc. And that's even without tariffs. So we've got about 40% of our corporations now looking to reshore. So a lot of activity about getting back into the USMCA. And the only issue is the recapitalization cycle. If you've spent a lot of money offshore setting up, obviously it's going to take a while to regen that capitalization and bring it home again. Here's some numbers. This is actually history up to 2015, about the time I was in China. And it was tipping point. We could see that whereas a couple of commodities should stay home rather than be sent offshore, when you take all the costs, logistics, overhead, labor, the environmental impact, etc. And it's going to stay that way. And there's a few reasons why it will stay that way I want to tell you about next. So what's happening is there's many factors, both politically motivated, which we hope are going to get even more motivated, and certainly the business initiatives in terms of things like the cost of the supply chain and our lean practices and the way in which we apply ourselves to our technologies that will push us towards a regional trade block environment rather than staying offshore on long supply chains. A lot of issues which are covered in the book. So we're going to see reshoring. We're going to see local capitalization once the cycle is complete. There's going to be a need for a lot of infrastructure rebuilding. Some of those supply chains are not going to come back naturally. It took 3 decades to get rid of those supply chains. It's going to take some work to get them back. Our whole culture and our whole skill set needs to be relearned from a manufacturing point of view. We need to learn how to manufacture again within our society. So the solution, that we talk about is three parallel imperatives. We need government to put their policy straight to support the initiative. We need an integrated industrial learning system so that we've got our not only people that are educated, which unfortunately we're overeducated in some cases, but strong training and strong experience combined together. And as an apprentice back in the 60s, we had that. We've lost a lot of that for our young folks. What I want to focus on is actually what you should do as practitioners. So we're dealing with the fact that we've got to understand that lean is one of the very strong initiatives that will get us there. It's one of the things that will push us towards running the numbers better and getting more productive, and also Industry 4.0. I'm sure all of you know what that is, but I want to just give you my version of reality as far as Industry 4 is concerned. If you've got product offshore at about 70% loaded labor rate, it probably is going to stay there. You got to get the labor content, not just direct labor, but the whole infrastructural labor out of the product. And the only way to do that is to go to Industry 4.0. You've got to start looking at how you get the manual content out of your product. Many tools to do that: Lean, Six Sigma, Industry 4.0. When you do that, you move across the line, you go past the tipping point to a reshore opportunity, because now there's no percentage in going offshore if there's no labor content, because the leverage of going offshore is for low-cost labor. So why would you go there? So that's the argument. So Industry 4 is a key lever to enable take-back manufacturing. I say that over and over. We can't bring back manufacturing the way it used to be. It's got to be new stuff done differently with Industry 4.0. Now, my version of 4.0 might be different than other people's. Let me just talk about it. I can remember slide rules. I did my degree with a slide rule. Hands up if you did your degree with a slide rule. I guess I got seniority. All right, I did. Okay, and probably some of you remember handheld calculators, and certainly those mainframe things. We couldn't run ERP on that sucker as hard as we tried. It was hard. But here we are today with ERP, handhelds, the cloud. You know, we've got full function machines on CNC, automated inspection. It's great, you know, but it's still not Industry 4. Because here's why. It's cyber physical. It must be cyber physical, where you connect everything together without human intervention to be classified as Industry 4.0. That's what 4.0 is. So here's pre-cyber physical. There's hands in every one of these pictures. Industry 3. Plenty of technology there, but not anything to speak about. Only one of those, bottom right, is an Industry 4.0 cyber physical solution. The rest are all high-tech Industry 3 environments. So what we want to do is get rid of the hand in our process. No hands. Okay, so what we need is, this is the old way where we trapped our people. We actually had our people trapped between the process and the computers with keyboards and swipe machines and God knows what. And they sweated it out. And what we want to do is liberate them with Industry 4 so that they are running the process above as an organization, with the system running the process directly. That is my version of Industry 4.0. Okay, there are a few advanced technologies. I'll cover a few. A fancy word is connectivity. Everybody calls it Internet of Things. Very important. It's not all about robots. We need smart sensorization on our machines so they can see and feel the process. And that's another journey a lot of manufacturing experts are going through as far as equipment is concerned. And it is turning up as an output right now. Big data, having body of knowledge in real time at the point of use is actually what it's all about. And so those are the three big ones. There are others, but those are the three disruptive technologies that we need to go to. Industry 4 is deemed to be a strategic imperative now. And it's big business, and you got to get on the train. It's going to be needed. Now, be aware, you need to integrate Industry 4 without automating waste. We've all done it. We've automated waste, vault inspection equipment, where we should have really had Six Sigma get rid of it for us in terms of the defects. But let's make sure there's a handshake between the technology and the continuous improvement using Lean and Six Sigma. You need a vision to do this, and this is part of the book. And you need a roadmap to go with it if you're going to do anything. And by the way, Industry 4.0 is as big, if not a bigger undertaking than a lean transformation. In fact, if you haven't started lean, you've got two things to do, lean and Industry 4.0. So you need a vision. First thing you do, here's a quick roadmap. You're going to start getting people together. You won't have all the answers yourself. So you need your ERP expert. I think I know one. And you need other people that make equipment. You need people that do sensoring. You need all these experts to come together and join you as a team to construct a joint provider syndicate to get your plan built, to get your vision built. That's the first thing. Second thing, people need a readiness survey. You need to keep yourself honest with a scorecard. So if you take your organization, that's a pretty typical pre-lean organization. It's vertical. If we now look at it horizontally and structure it, this is actually a modern organization where things flow automatically with systems. We now can structure it into a Industry 4 environment, which this is one of the models that is used. And we can populate it now with the subsystems that are needed for Industry 4.0. And you'll notice that ERP is right on the top alongside computer-aided engineering and a QMS system. So those three top boxes are very much instrumental foundational requirements for Industry 4. ERP, full functional ERP, which does everything from the front to back of the business. A very strong computer-aided engineering environment, which does everything from the engineering simulation of your product right through your process design and your testing, etc. And also you got to connect the way you do things into the system, so that's all orchestrated electronically as well. The most important part people struggle with is what's called an MES, manufacturing execution system. I'm finding that typically in your particular industry space, your equipment OEM providers at the latest trade show are probably talking up about their own MESs. And so the way MES is unbundling right now, I'm unpacking, is that it's being developed by the industry-specific OEMs for the equipment providers for the process. And that will take you with probably to where you want to go in terms of an MES. So let's look at a readiness survey. Take the same structure, you convert it into a scorecard, add a few things to it, and then you end up with a series of checklists that are scorecarded and weighted so that you can structure a checklist and a scorecard. Very important if you're going to take this together and do a scorecard and a plan, that you review it on an ongoing basis. So what I'm finding with people I'm working with is that you talk about it once a year, and that's not enough. It's no point just sticking it in the capital budget. It's an ongoing journey to get the change to happen. If we really want manufacturing to come back, we're going to have to work for it with these kind of tools. So a summary, you've got to get together with the industry and understand what's available on Industry 4.0. You need a scorecard, and you got to make sure that lean, your continuous improvement and lean study is actually embedded into this thing. So summarizing, we need take back manufacturing. We need to reshore. We need to get rid of long supply chains. Interest rates are rising. It's going to be pretty obvious and politically obvious that we're going to need to take it back. Globalized manufacturing has not been kind to the Western world. It's transferred wealth. It's threatened national sovereignty. It's been an issue for our prosperity, and it's limiting us in that regard. Industry 4 is one of the strong levers for a business to understand its numbers and actually see that they've got an advantage in terms of the cost. You need a vision and a roadmap. You aren't going to be able to do it on your own. You're going to have to put together an expertise set with these providers as a syndicate to help you get it done. Don't forget ERP and CAE are key to the top of the pyramid of manufacturing information. And don't invent the wheel, try to learn from, there's no magic pills or wands. There never was for me anyway, in getting this stuff done. You had to do it yourself. And if you don't learn and get it done, you'll probably get disrupted by somebody else who gets there before you. So the book talks about this stuff. It basically covers, this is one or two of the chapters in the book, but it also goes through the politics and the other cultural issues associated with bringing manufacturing back. I don't know what I'm doing on time. Good. So time for questions.